Tourist trap. Yeah, tourist trap.
Yeah.
Now we have no issues.
You'd all rise. I want to welcome everybody to tonight's city council meeting. We'll start with the invocation by Diane Quantz. Thanks, Diane.
Father of all mankind, we just thank you for all the people that are represented here tonight. We thank you for the wonderful community that we live in and those people that volunteer to be on our boards and who make up the fabric of this community in order to offer so many wonderful services for our citizens. The same can be said, Lord, of all the department heads that are here today and all of the work they put in to keep us safe, to keep things beautiful, just to make this a great place to live, work, and play. So help us to do our part tonight. Help us to carefully listen, help us to carefully deliberate, and help us to make the best decisions we can at this time. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Now the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. I want to welcome Lynn and all the members of the Common Council. Sorry I was playing around with the computer here, but welcome to all of you. And for the record, Lynn, Jack Wilhite is absent this evening.
Got it.
The first item here we have is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. I believe that was February 3rd.
Having reviewed the minutes, they appear to be in order, so I would make a motion that we accept them as presented.
I'd second that.
Okay, there's a motion to approve, a second as well. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. I want to welcome everybody here. Thanks, Diane, again, for your prayer. I want to welcome everybody. It looks like we have several members from the library. We'll ask Heather to come up, representing the entire group, and present to us where they've been working, where you've been, where you are right now, and then plans moving forward. Heather, I appreciate your communication with not only my office, but the Common Council, and appreciate you coming into the council chambers this evening to present. I will do the best I can
Okay.
to help you with the slides. So you just say next or however you want to do it, and then I'll help.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you all very much for the time tonight and for the extra technology help. I really appreciate that. So I get to come to you on behalf of the library board tonight, which I'm so excited. They are all here, as well as our nearly 18,000 card holders and our more than 108,000 visitors last year. We're getting ready for our Indiana State Library report, so the stats are fresh. But I want to share tonight our feasibility study, which we recently completed, which we did for the purpose of understanding the library's infrastructure and facility needs, because it's been 30 years since our last renovation. So also we wanted to know community needs and staff needs, because a lot changes in 30 years. A building ages and the way that we work and live changes quite a bit. So if you go ahead and look at your next page, hopefully you guys all have these packets in front of you here. And if you have questions as I go, please feel free to stop me. I threw this slide in. By the way, this is a highlight of the full report, which is available on our website. So it's a little bit out of order, and some pages have a little bit extra. So this is just highlighting that we had over 400 respondents to our community survey, and the firm who did this was quite impressed by that for our size of a library, and I think that shows a lot of passion and interest for the library. So moving on to the next page, we have a peer comparison, and these are stats from 2022. I'm really excited about those middle two highlighted boxes there. So as you can see, total visits per capita, we are right in line with all of our cohorts. And down below, you can see that number that I mentioned just a moment ago. Over 108,000 visits, which is up 15% last year from the year before. Card holders, almost 18,000, also up 15%. So these visits, they include things like our meeting rooms, which are shown down below in that chart as well. And we have 2 large meeting rooms. We have people from outside coming in to hold events there. Nearly 18,000 people came in 2024. And just to give you an idea of who are using those meeting rooms, it's Family and Social Services Administration, Department of Child Services, Department of Labor, NDOT, state representatives meeting with their constituents, the fire department, the post office, Indiana Public Retirement System, Indiana Gateway Digital Academy, Teen Court, Special Olympics, Kosciuszko County, KLA, and too many businesses and private groups to even name. So we're excited to see those numbers going up. And then additionally, on the other side, you can see our events are increasing. We would love to have more. We're a little bit limited with our meeting rooms, and I'll speak to that in a moment. But still, we had an increase of 40% with over 10,000 people coming to our library events. And one of the stats I just have to note because I'm so proud, our study room use. If you notice those numbers, 166% increase in the number of times they were used, over 4,000 people using those study rooms. And that is for things like tutoring. We have behavioral coaches who come in. We also have entrepreneurs who use that space. So it's obvious there's a need there, and we would love to keep expanding on that. And then additionally, that middle box up at the top, we are leaps and bounds above our counterparts as far as circulation. And you can see in the chart below, items borrowed on the left-hand side, well over 500,000 items. And we did have an increase in circulation. That just continues to go up, which is wonderful. Moving on to the next page, this is just a snapshot of what they found. So basically, we're going to go through and talk about aging building infrastructure and systems, the entry sequence accessibility, so very simply how people get in and out of our building, and then the operations and efficiency of the building. So moving on, they also discuss in here the value of libraries, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of different sections. So libraries recognize that people are not merely consumers. There was a time where maybe you went in, you got your book, and you got back out. That is not the case anymore. We recognize that people are creators and citizens, which means they're our friends, our families, our constituents. As well as we're an anchor for economic development, neighborhood revitalization, and we also help strengthen social bonds and community identity. So one of the things I didn't mention for our meeting room use, we have some senior citizens who come in weekly to play euchre. It's a free third space to gather. Third space is a space that's not work, it's not home. It's a place where you can go, be safe, gather together. And as we know, especially today, that social aspect and mental health are more and more important. Next page goes into community health and well-being. And again, this page is really important. For anybody who knows a librarian, you know that they are much more than just a book lender. They have become ad hoc social workers and navigators. We help connect people to health, housing, literacy, and a whole lot more. If you were to go up and have a conversation with anybody at our circulation desk or especially our reference desk, you would get a really good idea of all the different inquiries that we get. We have one-on-one tech help for people with their devices. We fax for housing, government housing needs. We get a lot of traffic from the courthouse when they're told that they need a certain form. People come over to find it at the library. They send them to the library to help us. We help them find them and print them off, job help, etc. And just wanted to note, so the community health and well-being, we're also doing things you don't typically think of a library doing. We have just had blood pressure and CPR classes. We're in the midst right now of creating a health fair with several different local health service organizations. We have the mobile mammogram unit coming this fall. We do self-defense classes. We offer citizenship kits. I could go on for a whole lot longer. But on the next page if I can flip the page. This one talks about libraries as anchor institutions. And if you haven't heard that term before, anchor institutions are deeply rooted economic engines in the communities they serve, holding significant social capital. They have trusted leaders, and they are trusted leaders in their communities, well positioned to help lead multi-sector work. So I'm really proud of the long-standing partnerships that our library has, as well as many, many different collaborations and partnerships we're in the midst of building right now. Okay, moving on into the conditions report. So again, this is just a high-level view of some of our needs, and I'm just going to go through some of these here. So letter A is our entry sequence. Again, just how people get in and out of the building. Limited opportunities for visitors and various mobility impairments or those with strollers and small children is noted here. They note our parking lot. It creates congestion at the single point of entry. Current number of parking spaces is not sufficient for max capacity events. The ramp entry, we do have an accessibility ramp on the east side by Detroit Street, and while it likely met accessibility needs at the time of construction, we would like it to be much more user-friendly, and if you've ever been on it, all of our patrons would like that to be more user-friendly. And finally, the last one is outdoor programming, which it states right there in the first sentence, we're just currently not able to offer. And you can see pretty easily why. We are landlocked, and 2 of those streets are very busy, very active, noisy streets. So a lack of green space and then surrounded by the streets. If we go on to the next page, this starts to talk about some of the issues on the lower level. Our meeting rooms can accommodate medium-sized programs, but this is not ideal. Just last summer, we had a couple of different events where we had to pay a performer for 2 different performances rather than 1 because of the capacity of the rooms. And I'm proud to say each one of those filled up to capacity. So we definitely have the need. We would just love to be able to meet it. We have an open staircase in the building that creates issues with noise and temperature. Our non-public or staff spaces could be more efficient, and we would actually love that to be more efficient. We've done a really good job of makeshift work and doing what we can to work within the building, but workflow of libraries has just changed after 30 years. And then the very last one noted here is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and basically they say that that needs to be included in any upcoming capital project, and I'll show you why very soon. All right, the last page here, page 31, the very top one is the only one I'll mention because some of these repeat, but I'm just going to read their first sentence. The entry sequence into the building is one of the most glaring issues in the building as it relates to the patron experience. If you have been there, you understand this sentence, and it's just overly complicated to navigate. Okay, moving on, we're going to get into the systems analysis. So what I've done here is I've pulled out just a couple of items from the different sections. So this first page deals with our plumbing systems. And what I pulled out here, it's basically just showing that almost every section notes some version of needs repair or needs to be replaced. And our facilities manager was kind enough to go around and take some of these pictures of why they need to be replaced. That middle picture there, actually, that did just get fixed this week. That is our dry sprinkler system, which has had 2 leaks. And then what's not pictured is our wet sprinkler system, which has also had a leak, which means we are paying for these repairs over and over again on equipment that has a finite lifespan. And we're using this money when we would much rather obviously be using it toward services and offerings. On the next page, getting into the mechanical systems, again, this is just basically saying poor condition and recommending replacement. And a couple of pictures to back that up. On the next page, this takes into account the HVAC equipment and the age of much of the HVAC equipment. So this middle paragraph here, all existing mechanical equipment within the building that remains from the 1996 construction are past their service life expectancy. They're still operating with several exceptions, and the existing units have had extensive maintenance performed. So we are definitely doing the best we can with what we have, but again, we're working with a finite lifespan. And as much as I don't want to bring your attention to these pictures on the page, I'm going to bring your attention to the pictures. So that first one there, that is our main circulation desk, and this is embarrassing to show. Thankfully, most people don't look up when they come in, but that is, and it's not even a clear picture, and you can tell that our blown-on acoustic ceiling is just disintegrating. You can see the cracks in the concrete all around the building. We have tuck pointing that needs to be done. Again, our building is 30 years old, so it's just time. And then this next page, we took that graph on, we took this graph and just kind of blew it up a little bit to show, this shows a dozen of the different items and their median service life, their expected lifespan. It doesn't even include our sprinkler systems, our building automation system, or a lighting system. You can see in that middle column, our equipment is 30 years old, and that last column there in red shows how long we have managed to keep this going. So again, finite lifespan, we've done a really good job keeping it going, but it is definitely time to have that addressed. And also, this is just behind the scenes infrastructure to keep the building running. What this isn't addressing is 30-year-old carpet, ceiling tiles, furniture, and the parking lot. So on the next page, part of this feasibility study also included a site plan. And this was just a high-level recommendation of things that we might be able to do to improve some deficiencies. One of them that's definitely needed is that first bullet point of reconstruct and resurface the parking lot. Additionally, you can see some accessibility parking put close to the entrance there versus where they currently are. The next page. This one is something that is near and dear to our patrons' hearts and our staff's hearts. If we could take care of improving that entryway, just to make that patron experience so much better, we would be thrilled. Again, people with mobility issues or just trying to navigate where they're going in the library. This is one idea for consolidating our 2 sets of stairs and 2 elevators. If you've ever had to deal with elevator maintenance, you know it's incredibly expensive, and often you need to deal with it at just the wrong time. So we have that expense currently, and we would love to rethink that. Okay, last page. So this lays out some of the urgent needs. This is not all of the urgent needs. And basically what this study recommended was the comprehensive strategy that you see down there at the very bottom. And if I can just read from the lower right-hand paragraph, basically it's saying the comprehensive strategy is the chance to address the entirety of facility needs within a singular project. That means we could accommodate the failing infrastructure and the operational inefficiency simultaneously. So being able to do that, because we're going to have to work above ceilings, behind walls, under floors, if we were able to do that in one go, that means we significantly cut down on the amount of work, any potential time that we would be closed, as well as the overall cost. So that is the end of the feasibility study that we had done. And so next steps, now that we've completed this, we have our urgent priorities identified. Our next step is investing in an architecture firm to help us address these urgent needs. And I don't use the word urgent lightly, again, 30 years. The library board hired Luminat at our February meeting, and that is the architecture firm that we've chosen to go forward with by making an investment in a schematic design plan. So we're excited to work with Luminat because they have an extensive background in public libraries, and that includes Carnegie libraries. This is going to lead us through, like I said, schematic design, which is a more in-depth and thorough examination of our needs. And so we'll be able to start quantifying those needs to understand the cost of renovation and also come up with a design that addresses both those needs and improves our efficiency. At the same time, that means we're going to be working with bond counsel to better understand what the bonding process looks like and what a potential tax impact would look like. All that said, we are really excited for what this could mean for the community. We know that there's an emphasis on continued improvement of quality of life here, and it's something that we're excited to be a part of. any questions? That was a lot of information pretty quickly.
So Heather, for about a year, you and the board members that are here, if you would, thanks for another several, please stand up, board members. So obviously, interest here. And I'll put you on the spot, that's what old teachers do. State your name, full name for the board, so we know who all of you are. Good.
Ben Rex.
Jen Hicks.
Joe
Jill Hewitt. Barbara Beth.
Christopher Merrill.
Catherine Zedek.
Okay, good. Thank you for your efforts. So this started your leadership and the board last year, this feasibility study completed in December. Thank you. More work to be done, determined as we work toward the spring and summer, including financing.
Yep.
Okay, good. Any questions from the council?
I think it might just be good to explain why they're here talking to us and what part the city plays in this and all of that kind of thing. So I don't know if our attorney wants to do that or.
Yeah, well, Scott, help me out. Again, coming to us last summer, and I think the city and the library learning quite a bit. We were all talking to our attorneys, and the role that we play as a city council to help finance a project like this, specifically understanding what that would be, and then also signing off, determining when we hear this, what direction we should go. We are the body that determines that, and you might want to, did I say that okay, or what
Yeah, I
else?
think, simply put, we learned that the role of this council will be to vote on whether to approve their request to seek bond funding.
Right, because it affects the tax rate, and that's why we would be looking at that
Correct.
as a
Right.
council.
Right. And I really appreciate Heather and the board's efforts to not only have this feasibility study, which took quite a bit of time and has provided you with all kinds of information, to provide another organization that can help you identify and prioritize all of these urgencies, and then also tap into information as far as financing and costs. And so Heather has been meeting with Jack Wilhite, myself, on a regular basis, keeping in touch with the process. And again, she wanted to come with the board before us just to tell us that they have completed their feasibility study for this facility. Good. Are there any questions about what's been presented? Any questions for Heather, the board? Again, it's just an update for, how far they've come and then what they plan to do with this.
How far does the feasibility study go? Does it get into the money part of it, the design part of it?
That's where that's gonna help them do those things. That's the next step.
Okay, so this is like a wish list.
This-
Reality, and I'll let Heather speak and the members of the board, but basically where they are right now, okay? This particular facility, so.
Yep, this was more of a high-level overview of our needs
Your needs.
and just some ideas of what we could do. But that's why we're making the investment to hire an architecture firm to take us through schematic design, which is going to get really much more in-depth and detailed and give us that design.
So Mike, at this, page 51 that's up on the deck,
Yeah.
you're seeing urgent needs, comprehensive strategy, and then the rankings with the dots.
Yeah.
Okay. Page 51, so.
So Heather, I have a question. You have a very good website, that warsawpubliclibrary.org.
Mm-hmm.
Is all of this now posted on the website for everybody to look at?
Yes, it's at warsawlibrary.org, and you can find this the full feasibility study under the About Board of Trustees tab. I think I have that right.
So if you go on that website, they have a pretty detailed history of the Warsaw Public Library starting way back, right? And the history coming through the Ward School and the library being built by Carnegie money in 1917, it looks like. And it appears that the last major renovation was in 1998, and you all will probably remember that. I didn't live in the town at that time, but
I spotted Ernie Wiggins, and there he is at the front. I love Ernie, so, yeah.
so they've done updates. It was built in 1917. It was updated significantly in 1966, again in 1998, and now 27 years later, they're here telling you about some of their new needs.
And the picture that showed the exterior and the lighting above the circulation desk, we take a lot of pride in what we do at the library, how we serve, who we serve. And we just also would love to have a building that reflected that as well. It just needs some TLC.
It'll be interesting to see what they come up with. I was reminded of the age of the facility with all the mechanicals, and I didn't even think about that. And then I thought about these things that are hanging up here and what we're looking at to try to make it right in our own building here. The realities of old mechanicals and what that can do. So, and again, that's part of the last page too. Any questions? Again, I think Heather's efforts tonight are a reminder of all the hard work that's been put into play by her and her board for the community, and then next steps as we head into the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months. Depending on what they're able to find out, that'll probably have a huge impact on their next steps if and when to come back to us
Yeah,
with some of the findings.
We would love to be able to come back and just keep you updated as we go.
That'd be great.
So Heather, I know this group a little bit. Would somebody be available to show each of them around if they wander over at a certain time? They're going to do it. I can just tell you, they're nosy like that.
Yes,
They're going,
please.
Yeah,
they're going to
yeah.
show up and they're going to want to look around. Do you have somebody that can show them around?
Mayor Jeff came in for a tour, Jack was just there, and I would love to take you on a behind-the-scenes tour anytime. Yep.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was just thinking,
Oh, you'll be there
I
like
breeze
this
in.
week
Like that, yeah.
probably.
I know I breeze in and out, but then I don't look critically at some of these things, but now that will make me do that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building. If you just walk in and you're not looking for these things, you probably don't notice. We get compliments on what a beautiful building it is. It's just some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, and if you start to look, yeah, we have some peeling wallpaper and other needs.
So I got like 9 different kinds of tomato seeds there last spring. There's some stuff at the library you might not even know is there. So they have free garden seeds. It's kind of a cool thing. All kinds of different things, but go check it out. They were cool. Like I would have never. They're heirloom stuff. I don't know where they got them. The generous donors, I guess, or. Maybe it's a master gardening club or something, but they had all kinds of stuff. It was really
We
clever.
had some very generous donors last year. I think Lowe's was one of the donors, and apparently we're not getting quite as many this year yet.
Well, it was clever. You can get peppers, you can get tomatoes. Anyhow, there's all kinds of stuff there. You'd be shocked at how many things are at the library if you go look. They have like this library of things, which I think is cool. You can check out like cooking pans and
Telescopes.
telescopes.
I think
stuff.
another neat thing is just the programming that you've increased for the youth, especially like the teen population. And they enjoy it. The last time they had a play, I mean, you had people standing in the hall, the whole area was filled up with parking. Yeah, it was amazing. And
My office is right across from where they would rehearse for that, and they got into it. They loved it. Yes.
yes,
I will say, early in the summer, when I went to visit with a staff member, and I think Jack would say the same thing, you go here I have the helicopter view of the place. It is different when Heather walks you around. Again, we were even walking around the front yard, and then we were over there where the ramp entry was, or is. We'd like it to be a was. And then also you get to see current realities in her vision, and this is what it is, and it's great. We're serving the community, but not just mechanicals, what they believe they could do to serve people better. So highly recommending, and Scott's right, that you get over there and it was about an hour when we were with you.
I
In
can
about an
fit it
hour,
into
she
whatever
can show
time you
you
have.
quite a few things and open many doors to just show you around the place. It's more than just a visit to the library. It makes you think about what they've been doing this past year to get to this point. So. Any other questions or comments for Heather?
I'll bet you Sloan goes over and checks it out too. I'm guessing you will. I can see that happening.
There you go.
Good answer, good answer. Well, thank you very much. And Cindy, if you want to schedule a tour, or anybody else, I would love to do that.
I will definitely call before I come.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much to the board too, so. Yeah, good. Your service to the community. Now, we may not have another 3 hours in this meeting. You can stay if you would like, but you won't hurt our feelings if you decide to step out. But thanks again for visiting, staying, or deciding to leave. Thank you.
Very much for giving us the time.
Yep. Next item is a January fund report. And Lynn?
So I hope you had a chance to look it over. And if you'd been counting all the funds until January, you would have seen less in January than what we had in December, because we deleted a few that were obsolete and we did in January. So your report's a little bit shorter.
Yeah. Any questions?
But nothing too exciting, so.
Thanks, Dustin. Any questions? Thanks, Lynn, for that. There is no unfinished business. We will go to new business, and Brian was up just a second ago. It does say on the agenda, ordinance 2025-02-01, but I think Brian's efforts tonight will be just to explain what they would like to see in ordinance form. Brian, what are we looking at here?
So these are updates to our current stormwater ordinance. And there's a short document, pages 1 through 3, is kind of the executive summary of the changes and why we need to make these changes. And then the longer version is actually going through and showing the changes. Red line, the blue text is the new language that is being put in. Brandon, our MS4 coordinator, is here as well to answer questions. By far, he's dove into this a lot deeper than I have. Most of these changes are due to the fact of changes at the state level, Indiana codes. We reference some codes that really no longer exist anymore in our language. Rule 5, Rule 13, which were stormwater rules at the state level, are no longer rules at the state level. LTAP, Christopher Burke, IDEM sort of worked together and put these stormwater into these ordinances. And we worked with Scott and Brandon to decide, do we want to sort of throw all of ours out and adopt the new LTAP ordinance? But we thought it served our community, our purposes better to incorporate what we needed to from those ordinances into our current ordinances. So we will line up a lot better with other communities that have adopted these same ordinances as ours with stormwater, but It still has a few unique twists in there to Warsaw. But we're a little unique with 3 lakes and streams and so what I'm willing to do however you guys want to do this. You want to walk through the whole thing, if you want to ask any questions.
I think highlighting some of, Brandon, you could also help, both of you. Again, I'm seeing a lot of red, I'm seeing a lot of blue, I'm seeing lines, and you could give us a brief highlight of all the
I'll
work
let
that you've
Brandon
done.
pick out some of the major changes or bigger changes that
Well, first of all, thank you, Council and Mayor Gross, for your time and for reviewing these. One of the major changes is throwing out the old references for Rule 13 and Rule 5. Those are no longer in effect. Since 2022, the city now is under a permit for the MS4 general permit. And then what Rule 5 referred to was a general permit that construction sites would be under while operating within the city. Also, if we had a project that met the requirements to obtain that permit, we also would need that. That now is called the Construction Stormwater General Permit, CSGP for short. So one of the major changes is the powers and duties of the utility. Some of the language that we changed does still call for the duties and powers of the stormwater utility, but we also changed the language so that it referenced the city in general, as the city is the MS4, not the utility. Let's see here. There were some definition changes. One thing you might notice is that section 78301 is not included in the actual handout that we sent you. We were having some technical issues with that not showing up, so we'll correct that for the next meeting or once we get the final ordinances to you. Let's see here. There were some new definitions that were necessary for interpretation and understanding some of the new ordinances. Specifically, one is a buffer ordinance, and this is a new requirement by IDEM, and that requires existing buffers that are adjacent or contingent with the waters of the U.S. You have to preserve 50 foot of buffer on each side of that water body and not disturb it. So we had to define what a buffer is, items like that. Let's see here. Some of the changes are standard that just needed updated. For example, you'll see on page 2 of 3 of the supplemental, section 78-310, notification of spills, that just needed updated because the process was not in compliance with what the state would require for the notification of spills. There were also some grammatical errors in the existing ordinances. Some of those are called out, some minor change or corrections. Let's see here. One thing we also did was Brian had mentioned that a lot of the state has adopted these model ordinances. They also come along with a technical standard manual that LTAP developed. We referenced that here, that manual, because as a trusted manual, basically, because that will be kept up with by IDEM, LTAP, but also includes some consultation between IDEM and Christopher Burke Engineers, and they plan on updating that manual. We are working on adopting portions of that. We don't see the need of adopting every single sheet in that because it's very extensive. So we simply reference it as a trusted source for meeting the requirements of their permit and our codes that we're looking to adopt. Yeah, and again, there were some other issues with, let's see here, like section 78 dash 500A, and this is on the supplemental again on sheet 2. Originally we had that concrete and paving in general is not applicable to that code because it's a stabilization process, not a land disturbing activity. So we did find some things in our existing codes that just needed thrown out because it could be confusing and be misinterpreted and just not necessary.
So Brandon, related to that, helping me out, in red is what you don't like with the line through it. In blue is the new language. In black is language that will actually stay with the blue that you're proposing.
Yes.
Is that
correct? So what we did was we wanted to show the footprint also of the amendments or new ordinances. What is redlined is an existing language in our current ordinance that needed thrown out. And
Right.
if there is below it language in blue, then that is the amendment. But if there are some areas where there are no red lines, and those are new language that we wanted to include, and we call that out on the supplemental as well.
Yeah, I think this is very good for the council to see what it currently looks like. Obviously in red with the line through it, we don't want it. The rewording in blue or new wording in blue, along with what we already see remaining in black, would be part of the proposed ordinance in the next coming meetings here. Brandon, I appreciate the hard work, and again, just part of the process of updating. I see that the fines, you also increased. I don't know
We
if you
have.
said that, but it wasn't, it was, I think.
They're more in line with what, we're
With
still
what,
pretty
right.
low on our fines.
Right.
And we actually have never fined anybody. We're able to work with them usually, but we wanted to have that in there just in case we ever get somebody where we need to.
Well, I did see that, yeah, it said, I think it was first offense, didn't have anything with warnings or anything. First offense, you immediately, old and new, you fine, but that's interesting, I wouldn't have known that. You've never fined, there's been no fines. Okay, so you're trying to work with contractors and construction to make it right.
Yes, and one thing to note is we do have a standard operating procedures within the utility and department. So we do have a notice of violation violation, then a notice of non-compliance, then a notice of non-violation or violation. Then we'll send out a letter of violation or a letter of non-compliance, and then a letter of violation. So we have like 4 different mechanisms before we even get to the fines, which we found that if we really get to the point we have to send a letter, that tends to do the trick, because the way the letter is written, it's straightforward, and the developers that are not in compliance or the violators tend to take the letter seriously, as opposed to a verbal warning, which we keep record of all these through our software for inspections and compliance.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm seeing 48 hours, and then it would be like the next Board of Works meeting, I'm seeing all that is laid out in there. Okay, good.
Yes, and one other change that was a major change is the notice, or the stop work order requirement. The state found that MS4s were utilizing that and costing developers large amounts of money when there were minor violations that it shouldn't have been the case. So they have a whole process for that, and that is updated within these ordinances as well.
I do see that, section
You
78.
can still issue
6,
stop
30,
work, but I
40.
guess some communities on the littlest thing were
Right.
issuing stop work orders, and the state has put in boundaries now for those.
I do see a lot of the blue in there connected to that.
Yes.
You've updated.
We will send an updated version of this. We found some issues with what we had submitted originally. Some grammatical issues that were updated, and some reason we got some versions of this document kind of switched around here. We apologize for that.
Well, I do appreciate you coming to the board and sharing with us what your recommendations or updates are going to be, work in process, drafting, and we are looking forward to, in the coming weeks, next several meetings, if you want to come to us again with a final version, more changes. It's easy to follow, the way you've set it up, and I appreciate that. And then something eventually for us to consider in ordinance form, the final document.
We certainly like to know any major
Right.
issues you might have that we can work through as we prepare the final draft of this, but if there are any, if you could reach out to myself or Brandon in the near future, and we could work through those.
Yeah. And the two major issues that kind of set us back is that, one, the definitions that would be found in section 78-301, the very first section of Article 3, is not showing up. Those definitions are included within following sections within that article. So that was the one issue. And then the only other issue that we have is on, let's see here. Oh, here it is. Is on page 15 of 24 of the ordinance, or the proposed amendments and ordinances, is section 78-500-502, calculations and design standards and specifications. There was, on this version that I'm holding, it's updated, but there was some major issues where something was thrown out of the language and it just does not read clearly. So those are the two updates that we need to make. Other than that, then it's, what changes based off of your recommendations, or any feedback that you provide would be the next phase for moving forward.
So Brian, you're saying in the next couple weeks, maybe 4 weeks, we need to consider what we're looking at here. The red with lines through it, the blue, and what is in black. You guys will continue to draft and work on updating this document and getting it to us, if not the next meeting, it would be the one after. And then maybe eventually, sooner than later, ordinance form. Is that safe for me to say that?
If that's, yeah, I think we were thinking the next time we come to you, we'd have it in ordinance form,
Okay.
but if you would rather see,
I just think what you're doing is great, and so however long it takes, that would be fine.
we would
Get
love
us
to
the-
move this at the next council meeting to an
Okay.
ordinance form and present it.
So advising the
Approval.
council to take a look at this sooner than later. Any questions or concerns, like you said, get back to you. You'll continue to update what we've looked at here and finalize it with a proposed ordinance, maybe at our next meeting.
Correct.
Good, okay. Good.
What does
Appreciate,
LTAP stand for?
It is local tech, and that's through Purdue. It's,
Okay.
there's other universities or entities that run that for each state. Each state has an LTAP. They provide free training, technical support. But yeah, and Indiana Purdue is the LTAP. They head that program. So.
Makes sense.
Appreciate the board's patience. Are there any questions for them?
I'm looking forward to a second read-through.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's exciting.
yeah. Well,
Good bedtime story.
yeah, the first read-through, and after having you explain a few things, now it'll mean a little bit more, I think, when I go through.
I'm guilty of it. I really, when I go through this kind of stuff, I'm thankful that we
Yeah,
have people
I
that are
know.
working on this. It's very complex. Needs to be done, though.
I might just add, I've had the privilege of working alongside Brandon as we go through this, and when he first showed it to me, I was like, well, what does that mean? You know, and it was like, he goes, well, that was a good question. If you don't understand it
Now, can you-
with your background, then other, contractors aren't going to understand it, other people aren't going to understand it. And so he's been really great about trying to get the language in understandable form. And they've been doing great at having workshops with contractors to explain all of these things. And I think that's why we have fewer and fewer violations now, because they've really gone above and beyond to provide education. Aaron's been a part of that when we do it. The Watershed Foundation's been a part of underwriting that and being there, and it's just been good. And as they ask questions, then that let us know, oh, no, that's not understandable, or oh, no, that's not clear, or oh, those things do contradict each other. So this has been I don't know, how long have we been working on this? Over a year.
Not so long. I think our biggest issue was a lot of communities were wanting to take that model ordinance.
Yeah.
But when we looked at it, we were kind of waiting for the review, and it would have just been so much work to throw that out. And there was a lot of language in there that was not necessary. We wanted to be straight to the point while being on par with what other communities are adopting. Because their whole goal, as far as is response to a House bill that wants to see uniformity across the state, because a lot of MS4s have different rules. You go from one community to another, they might have a different set of rules. So that was, the whole point of that. But at the same time, looking at that document, it was a lot of reading, and it was not necessary. So we found that it was better to pinpoint what was necessary and work it into our existing ordinances.
Any other questions from board members? It does look like in the next, by the next time we meet, certainly in the next two meetings as we head into March and late March, that you guys will have an ordinance to propose to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. No action will be taken on it, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right, that gets us to any other matters that come before the council?
I just want to encourage council members to come to Main Street Warsaw's 2030 launch party, and it will be held at the Vic on February 27th, that's next Thursday, I think, 4 to 6 p.m. We will have a document to show everyone that will document some of the things that have already been done and what we hope to establish in the downtown area by the year 2030. So it should be informative, and we're always looking for input from the general public.
You said that's on Thursday, the 27th.
27th, from
Yes, it
4 to
is.
6 p.m. at the Vic.
Okay, good. Thanks for that reminder. Earlier today, at the redevelopment commission meeting, you see Dustin is here along with Aaron. Resolution was passed moving forward. Jack was absent, but Mike again was there. It was a 4-0 vote approving the resolution to continue moving forward with the Public Works Street Department facilities upgrade. So there'll be another meeting, redevelopment commission, along with another, the second public hearing on March 3rd at 4:30. And again, that's the next step. We obviously, as council, if you remember Randy and Paula and Tom as assistant helping, we eventually are going to be pulled into this as well, because what the redevelopment commission is doing, it's subject to eventually our approval. So I really appreciate Dustin coming tonight, not only helping me with the computer and the projection, also Aaron here, just to make sure if there were any questions from the public, that they would be here to answer those questions about the project specifically. So thanks for coming, both of you. Any other matters?
Speaking of Public Works, thank you for everything you've been doing to make our roads as safe as we can possibly have them. And I mean, I've just seen you guys out night and day trying to work through all of this. So, yeah. Thanks to the Parks Department for trying to keep the sidewalks clear. I mean, I know there's not a lot you can do when it gets below a certain temperature. That salt just doesn't work. So, yeah.
For me, the amazing job that they do, and again, all of our departments, but with these storms, the typical resident might take a look at a news report and they'll see a picture of one of our plow trucks in the back end of a car. And the reminder for me as I look at that, the positive spin, is 240 lane miles. We have had several storms and accidents, as my mom says, it told me when I was growing up, mistakes and all that will happen. A reminder for me how fortunate we are that more things like that don't happen. And if you're out doing things, you know, Coach Wood in sports, it's you're going to make mistakes if you're really going after it. And the key is not to make them. But back to Dustin, I just greatly appreciate too, as mayor now, the efforts, your entire department during these huge and difficult storms.
Yeah, it was a very tough weekend, or tough into last week. From Wednesday on, we worked. We have a fantastic team of individuals that they love wintertime. They love this stuff. So we split into two separate crews, so nobody works longer than a 12-hour shift at maximum time. I think we had two 12-hour shifts from Wednesday through Sunday. Most of them were cut to 6 or 8 hour shifts and able to attack it. So just to kind of, appease the public a little bit on a little more background knowledge of what's going on and what it takes to the long-term planning ahead of the storm with the anti-icing efforts and things that these guys are doing every day. So there's a lot of behind-the-scenes activity going on, but certainly do appreciate your comments. So thanks a lot, Diane.
Yeah, and again, the photo, huge apology, and I hope the resident that this happened to understands. It just was a just very unfortunate mistake. But again, back to Dustin and all the efforts from the crew. I get countless texts on thanks Jeff the roads, thank Jeff the roads. And I want to say I'm asleep at 3 a.m. and he wakes me up when he sends me a text on the next crew is going out or the crew has done that. And, I'm in a nice warm bed and then I get up in the morning to come in and the streets are cleared or they're being cleared. And we're so fortunate. And how many accidents are prevented? Accidents again happen on a variety of fronts, but how many are prevented because of their work? We are so fortunate. I know many people that don't live within our jurisdiction, they can't wait to get into our jurisdiction because they know that they've been hard at work. So.
Yeah, and again, I mean, the accident with the plow truck is something that is very likely, if this stuff long enough, it's likely to happen. But the car was cleaning, or the plow truck was cleaning out the parking stalls. It went over the crest of the little grade, and there was ice, below the snow. on top, and once momentum just kind of carries you, I mean, we've all been there as drivers in northern Indiana, so it's something that likely happened. It was not a issue of speed or negligence on the driver's behalf. It was just a simple accident. And, you know,
No one was hurt?
no, it was
Okay,
a parked car.
that's-
Nobody was in the
we're
car.
fortunate.
Nobody was, so yeah, we're working with the insurance company to get the resident made whole and work through that. But, again, accidents happen. That's why they call them accidents.
240 lane miles.
Yeah, 240 lane miles, and we ran them all multiple times. So it was a busy last few days. But again, thank you, and we'll keep on keeping on.
Any other matters? Okay, if not, any questions or comments from those in the public? You've been here very patient and glad you go to the library every now and then. Good, that's good. Anything? Diane, it's good to see you back too. So, I know it's been, thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you. Have a good evening. All right.
You know, I wasn't sure.
Dustin.
So many of them under Jeff's computer, we really do see those people, you know, got upset about it, you know, most of them are very complimentary about the street.
Oh, yeah.
Under Jeff's, I would say they're all more complimentary.
Yeah. For me, it's bad that it happened. The other thing is,
Diane, there's boxes
I mean, this is the last time I